Welcome to the First Friday program at Church of the Redeemer, which is music of England, France, and Germany, with two viola da gamba players, Patricia Halvorson and Martha McGaughy. We're very grateful to Don Franklin, who set up this program. Let me tell you about these two wonderful performers and their multitude of wonderful instruments. Patricia Halvorson viol holds a doctoral degree in early music performance practice from Stanford University. She studied viol with Martha McGaughy while at Stanford, and following the completion of her DMA, continued her studies at the Koenig Conservatorium in The Hague. A native of Duluth, Minnesota, Patty is the founding member of Chatham Baroque, a Pittsburgh-based ensemble. Recent collaborations outside of Chatham Baroque include concerts with Four Nations, the Rose Ensemble, Empire Viols, J.S. Bach's Brandenburg Sixth Concerto with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra, and Bach Passion performances with Baldwin Wallace University, the Buffalo Philharmonic, and the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. Patty has taught recorder and viol at summer workshops, including the Madison Early Music Festival, Early Music Midwest, and the Viola da Gamba Society of America's annual conclave. The other performer, Martha McGaughy, viol, studied with Jordi Savall and Wieland Kuskin. She is a founding member of the New York-based Empire Viols, which was in residence at Second Presbyterian Church for almost 20 years, and now performs at the Church of the Transfiguration. She has recorded for the Phonet Centra and the Erato labels, as well as for EMI. She has taught at the École Nationale de Musique in Angoulême, France, at Stanford University, and since 1986 at the Mannes College of Music, where she currently teaches Baroque performance practice, as well as a performance workshop for ESL students. She has twice been the Regents Lecturer at the University of California. In the 2016-2017 season, she was a featured soloist with the China National Symphony in Beijing. More recently, she has given several master classes in France and appeared with Chatham Baroque in Pittsburgh. So welcome to this program. I know you are going to enjoy it.
Them say you can play them on violin or oboe or harpsichord or anything you want. But this one, number 13, and also number 12 before it, Couperin says, you can play these pieces on any instruments you want, but they will sound best with just two viols and nothing else. So that's what we're going to do. This instrument is also a bass viol, but it's called a lyra viol. It's a slightly smaller bass than the one Patty's playing. And this is based on a German instrument. This one is based on an English instrument. But they're both very versatile and good for both English and German and even French music. But we just thought we'd bring out everything today. So our next group, the piece is by Tobias Hume. He's probably the least known composer on today's program. He was very proud of being an amateur viol player. He was a professional captain in the Army. And that's why he calls this piece, the first one I'm going to play, Captain Hume's Pavin. That's a solo piece, and then we're going to follow it with two pieces that are duets for lyra viol. Lyra viol meaning very chordal, lots of double stops, and very influenced by lute music. This was a period in England where there was a lot of music in people's houses for amateurs to play and perform, which doesn't necessarily mean it's completely easy.
And doesn't necessarily happen these days.
No.
Also, we wanted to mention this music is notated in tablature. So rather than the regular, for you musicians out there, a regular stave with notes on it, it's, I don't know if this can be seen very well, but, or
Come up and see it afterwards if you want, and we can also take a picture of it and send it.
yeah. But it's just a totally different system of notating that works well for the chordal style. So this concert is honoring the memory of a very important person, Don Franklin, who was a member of this congregation, very active member for many, many years. He was a University of Pittsburgh Music Department faculty member. He was a very respected scholar in the field, especially of Johann Sebastian Bach, and he produced many concerts over the years. He was also just a very sweet man, and we miss him.
And he was very active in the 3 concerts that Patty and I have played here before. It seems funny to me that there's not going to be a reception after this with Don and Joan looking gracious and charming and with wonderful food. It's a wonderful church, and he was a wonderful member of it.
Two pieces we're moving to next are by Thomas Morley. And Morley was a product of, or at least his music and his writings reflected the craze for all things Italian that was happening in the 16th century, especially the second half of the 16th century in England and throughout Europe, but especially in Europe. There were collections of Italian music published in London with translated titles. So the 2 titles of these 2 Morley pieces are in Italian, and Il Doloroso is not, the piece is not as sad as it sounds, we believe, but La Caccia, it's a little more obvious because there is a lot of imitation in the second piece. And we should also mention, because Morley is very much a 16th century composer, here we are with our
choice.
Smaller members of the viol family, as the recorder family existed in too many family members to count, if you count the sopranino all the way down to the bass. And so the viols also existed in families.
So we're back to France now, and this composer, Saint-Colombe, very little is known about him, but we do know that he was the person who was responsible for adding the low seventh string to the viol. He's famous for that. He was also the teacher of many of the next generation of famous French viol players. Interestingly, this guy, Saint-Colombe, and Matthew Locke, the one we just played, are not that far apart in time. So they're separated mostly by the English Channel. This piece is a tombeau, so it's a sort of in memoriam piece. We picked it thinking of Dawn, and also because we really love the piece. It has several short sections, so it starts out with Tombeau les regrets, followed by Carillon, followed by Appel de Charon, followed by Les Pleurs, and then ends with Joie des Élysées. So that means first there's this sad tombeau about regrets. Then there's a carillon sound. You'll hear that. It's imitation of bells ringing. Then Appel de Charon, I guess, is Charon, I believe his name is, or Charon, I don't know how we say it. The guy who escorts people to the next world. Les Pleurs is tears, and that's a little, very beautiful, concentrated elegy of sad notes on the viol. But then we end up with the joy of the Elysian fields. So it's not as long as I just made it sound. So are there any questions before our last piece?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the heads on the tops of your instruments. Are they particular people? Or
That's a really good question. Yes, sometimes. This one on my Carl Dennis instrument, he told me it was Gaia, so goddess of nature, and there is a lot of fruit and leaf imagery around here. On my 6-string lyra viol, I think it's just some random gargoyle, nobody in particular. And on my 7-string, this is actually quite wonderful. It was made for me when I was living in Paris, and I didn't really want a carved head. I wanted a scroll, like a grown-up violin, you know? But I knew the builders always want to make carved heads. Fine, I wanted him to be happy. So I said, make a carved head, anything you want. So I got the instrument. I said, oh, it's very nice. And he told me it was the woman who runs the delicatessen around the corner. He had gone there every day to get his lunch, and he'd just been sort of looking at her and sketching, which I thought was charming, but he never told her. So she never saw it. And I don't know who this person was, but I have her on my viol.
And I have the goddess Aphrodite here, also on my Carl Dennis instrument. She's got lovely earrings, shell earrings. And then my French instrument is just a youth, a little unclear whether it's a male or a female, but a beautiful person. I had a viol once, and the woman was it was my Kessler, sort of scowling, and that's, you know, not a good message to put out into the world.
do you always know who they are? I mean, if you get an instrument, you know that.
Well, you can ask.
You wouldn't know who they are.
But no, we usually don't know. It's up to the builder to choose. But the one that I told you about with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that was a request of the person who ordered the instrument.
And this wasn't a question, but we should explain for those who may not know that the reason we have to tune so much is that we have many, many strings, and many of them are made out of cow or sheep gut. And so it's a little chilly in the church, and just, you know, just they go out of tune. So that's if we had metal strings, we wouldn't be doing this.
And if
but-
you think we're bad, we're much better than most people.
At least we tune only strings that are out of tune. Mostly. So our final piece, we moved to a composer who is probably the most well-known on our entire program, Georg Philipp Telemann, and he lived in Germany. He was more popular than Johann Sebastian Bach at a certain point of his life. He was very prolific. He wrote in many, many genres and wrote for also smaller chamber ensembles. And Martha, do you want to say a little bit about the collection, which we believe this is
This
from?
piece comes from the Getreue Musikmeister, and Telemann was a very good businessman. He wanted to sell as much music as he possibly could. So he printed things with a maximum of flexibility. This piece in the original, it has different clefs at the beginning, I think 3 or 4, hundreds of sharps and flats. I mean, as many as you want. And then he says you can play it on anything you want, just change the clef. So you just move the clef up and down in your mind's eye, and then you can play it. And that way he could sell more music. We, however, are playing it in only one clef today.
But we do have a lot of sharps.
Everyone is just taking it in and.
dumbstruck. If any of the people who are here have questions, or if you'd like to see anything closer up, do come up.